Hello and welcome to CIO Leadership Live New Zealand. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, the Editor-in-Chief for CIO in Asia Pacific. And I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Joe Hilson, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Tourism Holdings Limited. Joe was recognized as part of our CIO 50 in 2022 for the work she and her team are doing at THL. She has more than 20 years experience across a wide range of industries, from startups to multi-million-dollar market leaders, both here in New Zealand and in the UK. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, great to have you. Great to catch up with you again. So for those watching who don't really know a lot about THL, can you tell us a little bit more about the organization and what you and your team do there?
Yeah, sure. So Tourism Holdings Limited. So we are a tourism company and we actually operate quite widely. So we're in New Zealand, we're in Australia, the USA, UK, Ireland, Germany, and Canada. So part of what we do is we provide camper vans and RVs for rent and sale. And you'll recognise some of their brands like Maui, Brits. In Australia, we've got Apollo, Hippie, Just Go, and Bunk. Through the UK, Almonte, Winnebago and Kia, just to name a few. We also design and manufacture the camper vans. So we do that across New Zealand and Australia, and some specialist vehicles as well. So the likes of the St. John's Ambulance, we build that. And we've also got the operation for Discover Waitomo. So that's your caves, the Blackwater rafting, the Waitomo homestead. And finally, we have Kiwi Experience bus tours. So we're quite a diverse tourism company, which is great. So for me, in my role, it's global, and my teams are accountable for a number of things. We build our own products, so our fleet management system, our telematics products, and we also have the accountability around cybersecurity, data, IT operations across the globe, supporting all of our staff. And quite a lot, actually, busy times. And with the recent merger with Apollo at the end of last year, it's even busier. So really exciting.
Wow, huge variety there. I didn't realize everything from ambulances to caves you look after. Huge, massive role. And now you have worked in various industries, as we said from the outset, from health to insurance and now tourism. So can you tell us a bit more about transformation and how it has taken shape in your career? It's often, it is a buzzword, a lot of people say they're transforming, but, and like it's just a done thing. It's just easy, but it's not an easy thing to do. So can you talk us through kind of how transformation has taken shape throughout your career?
Yeah, and it's interesting, if I think back even 10 years ago, there was this conscious approach to we are transforming. And you're right, it was that key buzzword, and that word would appear on all of our strategies, and transformation programs would be set up and roles would be created with transformation in the title. And sometimes if you had a budget big enough, you'd be consulting one of the big consulting firms. So, there was a significant sense of importance that came with that, and a massive expectation that you were going to be creating some fundamental change and magic, I guess, because of the volume of people involved and the sheer size that it grew to be. But it didn't actually always turn out that way. And in my experience, a lot of the times it just got too big and went off tangent when you're trying to transform, because you lost sight of what it was that we were trying to do. And it became complicated and expensive. So, as the years have progressed, I've noticed a lot more reduced transformations. We're not trying to change the world. We're trying to, keep it within a reality of what we can achieve and deliver in less time as well. So for me, it's changed significantly. And I don't really call things transformation anymore. It's just that continuous improvement. So a massive shift from the great big bang all in to actually just make this part of BAU. And I think that's something that's really important, because it takes the pressure off and it keeps it more realistic as well.
That's a very interesting approach, taking it back to, the simplicity of what you're trying to do. So what do you think are some of the kind of key steps CIOs must take along the way, even if they are looking at transformation from that business improvement point of view? Is there ever kind of something that will kick off, a change within an organization?
Yeah, I think there's things that could kick it off. It could be the CEO's got a plan and there's something new coming, or, at the end of the day, it's just you're planning for the next financial year or the current financial year. I think what's important as a CIO, no matter what the circumstances, is that you are able to define that North Star. Why are we doing it? What are we doing? Where are we heading to? So that clarity is really important, and it needs to be aligned to your strategy. So when I'm talking about transformation and that North Star, I'm also, giving the same message that my CEO would be giving in regards to validating that strategy. So definitely that, understanding why we're doing it and where we're heading. And then it's easier for me and everyone else in that role to kind of enable people to come on that journey. So another big part of that is to remember it's not always technology. There's more than technology. There's people and process with any sort of transformation as well. So making sure that that big picture awareness and thinking is constantly there is super, super critical. Coming back to the earlier question around those transformations, we made it very quick about technology in those days. And that was a big mistake. So having the roles and those reminders of who's involved in that transformation is also really vital as part of the journey.
So, any change can be hard regardless of your role or regardless of your organization. So what's been your strategy for dealing with challenges when they pop up, whether it is people, whether it is legacy systems or constrained budgets? What are some of those kind of common roadblocks that come up when you're implementing these transformations, and how do you avoid them, or I guess help them along on the way there?
Comes to your plan, and the better the plan, the better you can manage a lot of those blockers, or be aware or prepare for them. And of course, a plan's as good as the information you have and the people that are involved in telling you the story and the dependencies or impacts. So, for me, to have a good plan is to know who needs to be involved to help create that plan. And again, it comes back to it's always more than technology. If you've only got a technology team involved in transformation, you're likely going to fail because the change is going to be impacting somewhere else, whether it's process, people. So make sure you are really clear on who needs to be involved in that plan so that you can bring them on that journey. I think that's definitely one thing. And then part of that is the other end. So, you've obviously got to a point where you've delivered that transformation, but how's that change management been, managed as well? Is it effective? Are we able to manage that resistance and then that business readiness support that comes with it as well? So, for me, the challenges are absolutely right. You've always got legacy and budget. I think they're kind of a no-brainer and expected in any transformation program of work, but it's actually focus on a really good plan and the people that need to be involved. Make sure you've got some good change management practices and also your business readiness, because at the end of the day, you want to just support the teams along the way when you roll out and you go live and you're holding their hands through to the end.
I love that. Yeah, that business readiness and making sure you're not setting it up for failure. So you mentioned earlier that you like to see transformation as, continuous improvement, part of BAU. With that approach, then, how do you manage change fatigue, both internally within your team, but also, within the wider organization? You've been through a lot of change at THLs, particularly with the merger now. So how do you manage that?
You've got to find time for rest and recovery. It's like sports. It's kind of like you've got your A game, your A game, your A game. But to your point, there's fatigue, and we're humans, right? So we've really got to make sure that we're thinking about that well-being component of our crew, because they can't operate at this level, 24/7. There's going to be some sort of consequence. And I definitely don't want that. I want to make sure there's a well-balanced approach. So again, it comes back to planning, and it comes back to opportunity to make sure that I'm encouraging my teams to take some time out. But at the same time, I've created a transformation program or a continuous improvement, whatever I'm calling it, opportunity where there is an end, and they've actually got to a place where they've gone, I've achieved something, so they're getting that recognition as well for themselves. We're all humans. We all like to say, great, I feel good. I've achieved something. I've learned something from it. So it's a combination really of making sure that we're getting, small bites of recognition and value that's come out of it. And then when they have been going at those longer, term sort of transformations, and some of them can go on for over a year, we're really focusing on that time out for them, that time to kind of breathe, relax. Even if it's a holiday, they might not have been able to take a break in that time because obviously time frames or deadlines, whatever it might be. It's just really bringing it back to them and their well-being and their opportunity to recover, and listening to, okay, are you ready for the next challenge, or is there something else that's going on? Because there's always BAU and other projects in my world, so there's more than one opportunity where they can also give their view on, hey, yeah, I'm ready for this next big program of work, or actually, I'd like to try something else. So really listening and being mindful of the crew, because, they are the ones that are going to be driving that delivery, and we need to look after them. So for me, it's definitely around that.
Absolutely. And I guess working in a tourism related business as well, you see all those beautiful pictures like the one in your background there of beautiful New Zealand and other markets that you serve. So I'm sure that makes people think about their own holidays as well. So speaking of buzzwords, another buzzword that's, that comes up is AI. It seems like a day doesn't go by that people aren't chatting about ChatGPT and DALL-E and all of the other generative AI tools that are emerging. So what role do you see for AI in the tourism industry? Is it something that you see value for in your organization?
Absolutely. I think every organization should see value in AI, and whether we like it or not, AI, I should say, is part of our environment. I see it naturally occurring through some of the software that we already have, and I'll get an upgrade and, we've got this new AI feature in it. And, to your point, ChatGPT, it's just being used so much more. And, for me, the value is, the reality is with my teams, there's so much work. There's absolutely so much work that we can't always focus on the innovation and the opportunity for automation. So when something like this comes along, I'm like seizing the opportunity, because it can take us so much further. The one thing that I do want to balance, though, is I want AI machine learning to be a complement to my team, not a replacement. And so that's the area that I'm still really trying to figure out, well, how do I manage that, and how is that effectively really going to occur? But for me right now, for example, we've just done a replacement data warehouse, and some of the key drivers on the decision was that AI machine learning capability, because it's an area that we just haven't touched on a lot, and it's an area that will drive a lot of value. Data is everything for us, and by the size of our company and obviously the variety of the different tourism components, there's just so many opportunities that we just can't get to alone because of everything else that we're focusing on. So for me, it's something that's definitely going to be top of mind in the next financial year. We've already made some decisions on some software to implement, and where it takes us, 12 months after that, I'm excited by. And I'm even excited just to see it in our day-to-day living, outside of the organisation. The one thing, though, that does concern me about AI is, because it's developing so quickly and maturing, that humans will get lazy and stupid. So that's why, I'm coming back to the whole, it's there to support us. So we still put a lot of emphasis on ourselves as humans to do the work in parallel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fascinating area, and who knows this time 12 months where we will be with it. So Jo, tell me, how do you influence and collaborate with, both your leadership team that you sit on and the wider organization? In what ways do you work with them as Chief Technology Officer?
So I'm a real people person. So put me in a room and I'll talk to anybody. I love talking, socializing, and connecting with people. So for me, forming relationships is key so that I can influence. We are physically located in a different building to the majority of the business in Auckland. So that also makes it a lot more difficult because I don't have that regular interaction. And of course, COVID has seen a lot more people working from home anyway. So for me to build relationships is absolutely critical. So I will look for every opportunity that I can, and whether that's a Zoom call or whether that's going out to the branches to see people or going across to head office as often as I can. It's really important so that I'm seen and people get to know me. And then on top of that, what I also do is, a lot of emails. I send out a lot of company-wide emails just on updates about things that are going on, so that more and more people are familiar. And more importantly, with my teams, the key thing is that I'm constantly able to say, hey, we're here and we're demonstrating value, and this is what we've delivered this time, and this is the impact that it's going to have on you and your team. So mainly through that relationship building, I'm getting that influence, and then I'm ensuring that my teams are also doing that, and we're able to constantly demonstrate value, which gets hard when we're a company the size that we are, because you can't please everybody. But then I can at least also be having those conversations which are, hey, we're not giving you this time round, but we will look at planning, in the future, or maybe we want to think about a workaround. So just keeping those connections open and that communication open, but also making it wider than just my executive team. I love learning more about the business and who's in the business and those key roles and those people as well.
Now, you mentioned the COVID word earlier, and it has changed, a lot about how we work, but it has also brought technology into sharp focus for a lot of organizations. And of course, tourism was one of the industries really badly hit by the pandemic. So how do you think the role of the CIO has changed since, we were all locked down and told to go home?
I think there's a lot more pressure on us to trust, because we don't see the people as much as we once would have. And I can even say that within my own teams, we have a policy where it's 2 days in the office and 3 days from home. So you're no longer in the position where you're seeing them on a regular basis, 5 days a week, understanding how the effort is. So there's this massive trust expectation on us to go, yep, they're at home and they're still doing a great job and turning things out. And I think that's, it's a big shift. It's actually a really big shift, because, physically seeing something versus kind of going, oh yeah, I can imagine that's going on, are vastly different. So, I personally have seen a lot of change in me and going, yep, okay, great. They're doing what they've got to do. And if I'm seeing the output, I'm happy. I think that's one thing. And then the other part is, and I touched on it before, is well-being is huge. It's absolutely huge, because it's no longer 9 to 5, and it's actually okay not to be 9 to 5. But then that does have impacts on people's lives and their well-being, because obviously they're at home. And so there's a lot of other things going on. So being aware of that and being able to respond and have those support mechanisms in place as well. So it's quite interesting. I kind of feel as a CTO, it's not so much about, hey, we've got the right tools and you've got learning opportunities. It's like, actually, I'm looking after you, and how's your health, and are you taking time out? So a lot more of that softer side and that empathy coming out is more important, or just as important this day and age with the pandemic. So and it'll be interesting to see if it changes with companies, with people swinging back into the office more. I'm watching that space, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's changing all the time, isn't it? So just expanding a bit further on that, you mentioned that empathy piece and really, caring for your team. Are there any other kind of key attributes that you think are, really key for a successful modern day CIO or CTO when it comes to leadership?
I think it's probably any sort of leader, not necessarily just the CIOs and CTOs, is that self-awareness. It's constantly being as authentic as you can. You want to drive a passion, you want to drive an excitement, you want to remain positive. At the end of the day, I'm also working from home, and I don't get, the teams don't get to see me on certain days. There's a lot going on in everyone's world. It's kind of like, actually, everyone's, at times people can be a lot more stressed. There's a lot more deadlines all happening at once. So for me, it's just making sure that I still remain aware, even though I'm physically removed, I'm still aware that, that may be going on. So it's really important that I stay close to my leadership team and that they're keeping me in the loop and they're feeling comfortable and, confident that they can speak to me about that. I think the other thing is, around promoting that inclusion. So again, physically not seeing them, but when opportunities come up, don't forget them and continue to promote inclusion with any new initiatives that may come my way. I mean, in my job in particular, there's always change. There's always new initiatives coming. There's a lot of unplanned work. So, remembering that I've got a wider team, I've got teams not only just based in New Zealand, they're around the globe. So making sure that inclusion is consistent and making sure I'm timing those catch-ups, where it's obviously going to be, as much as possible suitable for everybody to dial in. So, yeah, I think it's definitely around that self-awareness, promoting that inclusion and maintaining that passion are really key attributes of a modern day CIO. And like I said, any leader actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you've touched on some of this already, but, when it comes to that internal culture, what kind of things are you doing, to help people feel like they really belong at THL and, that they are achieving those personal and professional goals, no matter what their role is?
So this year I purposely put in budgets for training. So we have, with the pandemic, obviously a lot of it was cost cutting, but there's just so many advancements in technology. And also in regards to my teams, I want them to cross-learn and have opportunities to learn maybe other areas that they would consider moving into. One of the things the pandemic did was we lost a lot of our staff. And as a consequence of that, everyone's replaced now. But I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that you're feeling that you're getting growth and you're getting opportunities. And that doesn't always just mean you're going to be a junior developer, an intermediate developer, a senior developer. It's like you might want to go into data and insights. You might want to look at architecture. You might want to look at project management. The roles are extremely wide. So I've provided the training opportunities. As someone in my position, I get invited to a lot of seminars and opportunities. In the last year, there's been heaps. So if there's tickets, I'll always say, does anyone in the team want to go? Here's a good opportunity to get out and meet some new people, hear from different perspectives. And then with the restructure, so after COVID, when we lost a lot of our team and when we built them up, it gave me the opportunity to have more of an even spread of capability. So we were very top heavy. And there's not a lot of room for everyone to go. You can't all be CIO. So it gave me a great opportunity to bring in, grads and juniors and intermediates. So we've got a really balanced team now of capability, which is great because you're all learning from each other. There's different perspectives. And that's been super helpful for their personal growth. From KPI point of view, we always make sure we have your personal growth opportunities as well as the business-driven ones as well. So, a massive focus on that. And as an organisation, it's a really important part for us. So not only just in technology, but for all roles throughout THL. So I get a lot of that support from the rest of my executive team and obviously those initiatives that they run.
Now, Jo, you're one of very few female CTOs and CIOs that I've had the opportunity to speak with. And, I really enjoy listening to the perspective of women in senior leadership roles, sorry. So can you tell us a bit more about what attracted you to technology and what kind of practical things do you think can be done to attract more women and people from other diverse backgrounds, whether it be neurodiversity or, different ethnicities? How do we get a better reflection of the New Zealand that we live in roles in IT?
Great question. My career, funnily enough, started when I moved into a flat in the UK, and it was full of database analysts and accountants. And my mum was an accountant. So I'm like, no, I definitely don't want to go down that route. I've seen what she does. So they encouraged me to take my skills. And so I had been working in marketing before I left New Zealand. And part of marketing, as a lot of people will know, is that constant change. And so I would be testing all the systems to make sure that all the changes had gone through onto the systems, and I'd be signing them off. So unbeknown to me, they're like, well, that's what a tester does. So my career started by moving into this flat, and then recognizing that actually I've had some experience with testing, writing a CV, and away I went. Being in the UK at the time of Y2K also helped, because there was just jobs everywhere. You recall it was just panic stations all around the world. So I was very fortunate, and the first job that I got was testing, and then it kind of evolved from that to an IT help desk, and then it went from that to business analyst, and came back to New Zealand and studied and did development and networking and web design, and pretty much tried every role that I possibly could along the way. And I loved it. And when I was at university, there was only me and one other female in a lot of my IT classes. And I remember at the time loving that fact. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm different, but I absolutely enjoy it. And I think I learned IT is not always coding. The one thing that university did for me and all that job experience was there's just so many different jobs. And it's funny because even this day and age, I'll talk to my friends and I'll say that I'm in IT, and they just think, oh, you do everything. Like, no, I don't do everything. Most of them think I can fix their broadband. But it's like, no, I don't do everything. I've tried a lot of things, but it doesn't mean I'm good at them. And I think this is the key. And I think the key when I think about my daughters who are at school is school. It's absolutely got to start at school, and I mean primary school, and I don't mean high school, I mean primary school, because technology is absolutely necessary, and it's not hard. It's got a lot easier, and there's a lot more variety and opportunities for children with different capabilities, strengths, and personalities. And I don't think they know that enough. And there's still this fear that, oh, you've got to be an absolute wizard, or the smartest person in the world, and that's the only way that you can get into IT. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of smart people and wizards, but actually there's lots of creative and arty people, and just people that love to deliver, or people that just are curious, that also would do well in IT. And so I truly believe if the school curriculum made it as normal as possible and educated us, the children, more on the opportunities, we would not lose a lot of the opportunities that we don't get through New Zealand, because, by the time you get to high school, you might get the token class that you can attend. Otherwise, you're really reliant on having money to go to a university or a polytech to learn the skill, which is a shame, and not everyone can afford that. So I truly believe if schools in the early years put more emphasis on the curriculum and made it as normal as possible, we'd have a lot better chance of improving that diversity and having, greater sense of even females or whatever you are, in IT. But without that, I still believe it's deemed too hard. You need to be super, super intelligent, when the reality is, no, you just need to have a passion for it and an interest, and here's all the opportunities. Does any of this, look attractive in one way or another? My daughter, I've got a daughter who's year 12, and she's got a fabulous opportunity to come and have some cyber security experience for term 2 as part of a work experience program. And her teacher said to her, oh, I didn't think that would be your thing. And my response was, based on what? So there's still a lot of that mentality out there. And it's really disappointing, because I absolutely love working in IT. Like you said, it's been 20 plus years, we'll just call it there. And, the variety and the diversity of the people that I get to meet, the general passion and abilities and capabilities, it's a fantastic environment. And, like I said, I've been very fortunate to work in many, many different roles, and it's been fantastic. And I wish everybody else got to see that and not turn a blind eye, prematurely, because they just haven't really been given the opportunity or the guidance about, from people around them to take it to that next level.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gosh, what disappointing feedback from your daughter's teacher.
I was biting my tongue.
Hopefully we can change that. So, for people who are already in IT and, do aspire to be a CIO or a CTO, what advice would you give them?
Take your time. A lot of the grads and a lot of the new entrants into IT all want to be a CIO. And I'm like, I get that. Completely great. You're driven, but look around, get to know where IT exists. And like I mentioned earlier, my team, I've got data, insights, architecture, digital delivery. I've got enterprise, I've already said enterprise architecture. I've got so many opportunities, business analysts, project managers. Take your time and try the other areas, get a rounded, holistic view and experience in IT. Don't just focus on that one area because it's fascinating. Cybersecurity, no one thought they'd want a job in that, 10, 12 years ago. Can't get into it fast enough. It's just amazing how it's also growing and enhancing. And so for me, the advice would be, don't go in a straight line. Don't have a career in a straight line where you think it's just straight to the CIO. Try and explore and experience would be my advice.
Great advice. And so, you've had quite a busy time with the merger, and, we're facing some pretty hefty economic headwinds this year. So can you tell us what's important to you in the months ahead?
Yeah, so with the merger, so with the Apollo teams, we've brought them in, we've all combined as one company, bringing systems together as one, which is keeping us all very busy and new transformation opportunities. So for me, it's really going to be learning how two companies operate better as one and how those ways of working can improve. So I'm a massive believer of continually improving the way that we operate within my own teams. So as I mentioned, with all of those different roles, it's kind of like it can get noisy and complex and who's doing what. So I'm going to be focusing on the teams and how we can improve and provide a lot more to obviously the bigger company that we have now and globally reaching. As one company, and I'm quite excited. So we've got a lot of planning that's about to kick off and deciding what our strategy is going to be from a technology point of view for the new financial year, and then what those priorities are also going to be. So AI is definitely on there, automation, but just able to nail that down and learn a lot more about the new team that's joined us, and keep us busy. And no doubt the 12 months will fly by.
Absolutely. And hopefully you'll have time for an old camper van trip along the way.
Definitely.
Jo Hilton, Chief Technology Officer at Tourism Holdings Limited. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Kathy.